Hi, Dan.
Finally. Hi, Paulette. Hi, John.
Hi, John.
Hi, Dan.
Okay, you connected. Good.
Dan, it looks like I've tried to connect twice here.
Yeah.
I was kicked out once and then came back. So there's Rick. Hi, Rick.
Hey, folks.
So I'm going to go to my second one. And I'm going to see if I can leave.
My phone shows up as a separate person on here.
Yeah, if I leave both of them, I'll come back.
Okay. Joys of Zoom.
Somehow it's got me on twice.
I don't know if you got the notice. I am recording this because Sadie says seen at least couldn't be here but wanted to get the recording if possible. Oh, there's and more.
Oh, man.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, Len.
Hello, hello.
How are you, Paulette?
Not too bad. You, how was the retreat?
Retreat was very good.
Great.
Yeah, all went very well.
And then now the priest, the clergy there came right after you.
Yeah, that's right. Archbishop Dunn is staying right down there. He was our retreat director,
Yeah,
but
okay.
he's going to be taking the the retreat. They have Bill Burke, I think, is coming in for the retreat director for the priests.
That's what I heard, yeah.
Yeah. Keep getting this phone popped up here.
Yeah, is that you? Is that your number?
No, that's 190.
It's yours, Dan?
It is. My computer's
I think that's another person trying to come in.
no.
Somebody trying to make a connection.
John, John started showing up like another thing, I noticed.
You're very difficult. I can hardly hear you, Dan. I don't know.
Yes,
Okay, here, but
same thing here, Dan. I
Yeah,
can
your
hardly-
audio is not that great, Dan.
okay, that'll be better now.
Yep, that's better.
Good. No, I have to use the phone for audio, and it works different times, different ways. The computer audio and Zoom don't work with each other.
Okay.
Okay.
And I think we're just about, we're almost at 7. I never heard back whether there's going to be anybody from St. Catherine of Siena able to attend or not.
No, there wasn't anybody on the email list from St. Catherine's, was there?
I copied their 2 members of their pastoral council so they knew what was happening, if in case or if they found someone who was willing to step forward, even on an interim basis, as Rick is doing, and maybe to keep this moving forward and keep involved.
Very well. I think we should get started.
Yes. Now let's do that. Sure. Sooner started, sooner finished.
That's correct.
On a Sunday night. And I suggested that we could just even use the draft timetable as our agenda. It's okay with folks? Okay. And if there's things that people, yes, that we can both work through, fill in some details if possible, and also add or change things as we need to as we go along. So I suggested have material for the bulletin drafted by the 26th, which Tuesday, yeah, Tuesday would that be? I'm trying to get my, yes, by Tuesday. And I should take on the responsibility of doing that first draft, I think. No one's going to object to that. No, good. And then to think about date, time, location for that. Father Pio suggested that there should be a parish-wide information session for those who have a real interest in this to get together. So we need to identify when that should be and where.
Just a question. So is that meant to solicit interest for people who want to work on the project, or just to inform parishioners about the project, or both?
That's going to be partly up to us, I think,
Okay.
because we want to address it at each mass as well, I think, which would be general information for the entire parish.
Mhm.
So I've seen the information session as more for those who have a particular interest, who want more information, and who hopefully can be drawn forward as volunteers through that meeting. That's how
Right.
I've thought of it.
Okay.
So
Yeah. What is
you were at
it?
the same meeting as I was, or do you have the same thought on that information session?
Well, I'm kind of confused because as I spoke to you, Dan, on the phone, I interpreted my involvement was just to gain information so that I could discuss this at our St. Vincent de Paul meetings, not to be involved in any way, because I feel that is the responsibility of the chair of our pastoral council. But it doesn't appear to me, I haven't heard anybody know anything about it at all, other than Len and I, who watched the original Zoom meeting, and Len informed Father Pio and our chair of parish council. So I kind of, I feeling, you know, my involvement is kind of, I don't know, because I'm only there for to find out for St. Vincent de Paul, and I, you know, it's not my role in that, you know, to bring that to parish council. So what is it you want of us? I mean, Len and I, Len as deacon is different. He's also our spiritual director, but in terms of involvement as a Vincentian, of course, I'm willing to help in ways to bring it to St. Vincent de Paul Society. But you know, I'm unsure of what, of these things that I see listed on your, are you expecting that each one of us is going to do some part of this?
Right back to the start of that, it is a parish responsibility. And Society of St. Vincent de Paul is seen to be a supportive organization if it's willing and able to.
Yeah,
There has to be a decision made at each conference of St. Vincent de Paul.
yeah,
Nevertheless, individual members of St. Vincent de Paul could well step forward and with their parishioners hat on, which is what I have essentially been doing.
mhm,
Well, I've got two hats: parishioners hat and parish finance council hat, both of which are legitimate interest in this, because the finance council has a property responsibility. But so that I think it was John mentioned, in some church communities, the contact liaison person who was emerging is not a member of the Society of St. Vincent de Paul. In others, it is. But people are not required to take on a leadership role because there have been ascensions.
no,
And a key point in each participating church, especially one that's going on to actually have a shelter, is who will be the contact liaison person. There has to be at least one person to take responsibility, I would say, at each church where a shelter or shelters are going to be located or potentially located. As this shows, there's a lot of steps between now and when being actually assembled. So, Saint Mother Teresa, it's my expectation would be between Len and yourselves to engage others, pastoral council, and then looking towards speaking to the people at the masses, whenever that's suggested or whether we agree it should be, to find who will step forward, and also to think who are likely individuals there who might want to step forward, would be capable with enough support to say, I'll be the contact liaison person. I'm not, because someone needs some reassurance. I'm assuming they're not going to be stuck out there all on their own. And they'll be thanked very kindly for having taken on this responsibility, and then people disappear.
Yeah.
Not that that's ever really happened, of course, in our church or any other organization, but that's one thing to try to avoid, and that's part of the recruitment, is some assurance that there is support there.
mhm.
Yeah, there's
Well-
something I should input here myself at this stage. I don't want to throw a kink into the system here, but when I was on the retreat this weekend, in fact, it just happened at lunchtime, the Archbishop Brian Dunn was sitting at our table when we were having lunch. And I had mentioned that we were beginning some discussions on the tiny shelters in St. Francis and St. Clare Parish. But he said that a glitch has arisen. And the glitch is with the Halifax municipality, the city of Halifax. And he says, we got to get a message out to people. And I think the chancellor is, Robert Doyle is going to send something out tomorrow. Now, he didn't go any further than that. It's a government glitch, but I don't know what it is.
Well, if I can go in, because this is, the whole business about the hats is kind of relevant, but because we all kind of know each other, it's a small world, you know, we won't kind of stick to them, because actually both Dan and I are on St. Vincent de Paul and St. Teresa's, right?
Yeah.
So, and I had maintained the original spearhead, of course, came from St. Ignatius and Ray Burke and Jacob out there in Bedford. And, you know, even on the hat thing, as you know, Paulette, they annoyed particular council because they kind of led the Archbishop to believe that, in a sense, one of the drivers of this was going to be St. Vincent de Paul.
Yeah,
And we were very adamant in the sense that we really wanted to be, and, you know, I know we all fall back into the old talk, we call it a parish, but it isn't a parish. I want the church council at St. Teresa's to be the nominal drivers, and I will help them in any way I can, right? But we also have to kind of get a little bit going. But one of the things is, as you know, the Bedford crowd, they're very good and they've done an amazing job. but there's sometimes they're a little naive. And in the Q&A, they said in there, oh, we can go ahead and do it because it's private property, which is completely false. The fact that it's private property doesn't mean that we don't have to abide by zoning bylaws. We still have to abide by zoning bylaws. We may have some more leeway because we're in an institutional zone. The churches are in an institutional zone, but it doesn't mean that we can build on the property line or we can build 20 stories. No, it's, you know, so, and that's in the Q&A a little bit, Dan, but we'll take that up with Jacob on the side tomorrow. I think right tonight, in a certain sense, and I'm going to continue to do that, Paulette. I like the timetable because it gives us something. You know, part of the issue too that we have is that the diocese wants this to be parish driven.
Yes.
But we're still very much church driven. I want to be honest about that. We're pretty much still, you know, I've got to make sure that I've got half a dozen people in St. Teresa's that are on board with this. They're old parishioners.
Yeah.
They think it's a good idea. They're willing to help. And the other pieces, you know, like lining up a porta potty, that I can do, right? But I'm not going to do it if the first thing we get is a bunch of people in my parish saying, St. Vincent de Paul, put that there, and it's their problem, right?
Right.
No, I don't want that at all, right?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
it's a parish initiative.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's quite clear that we can't do it as, you know, St. Vincent de Paul. I mean, that's been made clear to us. And I feel until we have our meeting tomorrow night, we almost need a lot more clarity of what happens at decision-making wise tomorrow night at a particular council meeting. And it kind of like, you know, I'm thinking, well, are we jumping the gun here? I know the timeline is we don't have much time and things have to be set out, but kind of if things block us too much, can we continue, you know?
I think there's certainly a risk for that, but I think working through the agenda here, just in broad strokes, I think there may be some value in that. Like if there's a deal breaker glitch with HRM, then this is all put to rest, I guess, sometime this week or whatever, we'll probably find out. But maybe now that we're gathered here, we can sort of work through broad strokes just to get an idea ourselves. I think we'll all learn from each other anyways, because we seem to be bringing different perspectives here. So it might be worth an hour and a half of our time to work through some of these points, you know, and without too much of a commitment on anybody's part, but just to understand the process, right?
Okay.
Yep. That's what I think. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the way that I see it. Yep.
Yeah.
I know. I've
Okay.
been in touch
I'm
with
fine with that, yeah.
I've been in touch with Jim Evans, who's the chair of the Pastoral Council of St. Mother Teresa. And the way that I see it is the Archdiocese has approved this. The Pastoral Council for the parish, St. Francis of Clare, has asked us to proceed. So each of the shelters that goes up in the individual churches, that has to be dealt with at the individual church level with the chair of the Pastoral Council and perhaps the chair of the Finance Committee to move ahead with it, to find the location and that sort of thing. So, and then also there has to be the things that you have in the agenda put in place. But that's something that can be done at the individual church level.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way that I see it.
Mhm.
No, I agree.
Okay.
So in fact, we can just think about for the moment, and we'll know in a day or two more on back to the starting point here, whether we're organizing a parish-wide information session and for home.
Okay.
Yeah, that was one of my points, because I know that in down at St. Patrick's there, I went down there this evening to look at the proposed site and whatnot, and as you probably know, there's that a condo building right adjacent, sort of behind the church there, the Spice condo building. And then I think those houses on Brunswick Street leading up to the church are multi-apartment homes. And then on the other side of the church, the same thing. And then the old rectory was converted into a small rental complex just a few years ago. So we have a lot of residents who will be sort of directly impacted. And that's why I kind of wondered about the information session should be something for the whole community, you know, so that I know we'll eventually let folks know that these things are coming into the neighborhood, but then an opportunity for them, not necessarily to consult on, but a contact point for them to ask questions to, or maybe to be invited to a community meeting. And that's where I was going with the information session thing, just to include all the homeowners in the area who may be impacted.
There's a point someone raised, whether with the neighboring residences, as we all have, and that's a good point. We've got multiple units all around you. Whether to have a meeting with them or try to more set it up one-on-one, just around the dynamics of organizing a meeting where one or two loud voices can take over.
Yeah. Is that something that the Archdiocese would support us on? Is sort of like a community event? Because it could be done on this platform, on Zoom. You can have a lot of participants and, you know, maybe hear from the Archdiocese about what the plan is and what we're intending to do. I don't know that people may not object so much, but they'd like to know a bit more about it, like giving them the opportunity and whatnot. So I don't know if this was the information sessions were planned to be in person or using a virtual platform like this, or maybe a combination of both. But it is a consideration, I think, to let homeowners know about it for sure. I think residents in the area, right?
Well, that notification could be made first just by a flyer or a notification to each one of the residents that we think are going to be affected.
Mm-hmm.
And then if there's resistance, and I would think that would be the time that you may wish to move to a general meeting of whatever it may take. There may not be any resistance at all, you know, but you can expect some resistance, but at the same time, we can't allow the decision to be made upon the fact that there may be some resistances.
Oh, no. I'm not suggesting that. I'm not suggesting that it should impact our decision. You know, we'll figure that out. It's our property and whatnot, what we want to do there. But, you know, just good to inform people that it's taking place and give them an opportunity. Sending out a flyer is good, but we'd still need in order to gauge their how they feel about it, we'd still need some contact information to identify, you know, I don't know if that's going to be for the whole parish or each church will do its own mail out. So some of those questions might have to be answered as well, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
the
I see
information
it as each church has its own particular situation. Your situation at St. Patrick's is different than Mother Teresa. And so I don't know how it could be handled jointly. I think it'd have to be handled individually at each church. That's my feeling.
Right.
But the information session you're talking about in the timeline early on, and then the draft letter, like the letter going out, you know, that much, like the information session first, and then the draft letter going out after that to the neighbors, right?
Well, this is where we need communications pros a little bit, Dan, because as an example, I saw them as one comes first, that I want the people at the parish comfortable with what we're proposing. You know, okay, if anybody asks them, I hear over St. Teresa's you're doing this. I don't want people at St. Teresa to say, I've never heard of that. You know, I want them to know. But
well, if we don't have their support, we don't have anything.
Exactly. But the second thing, as you know, is once we do it, let's say from the pulpit or in the bulletin or through a kind of a thing that you can get at the back of the church, the neighbors will know right away, right? Because, and in our case, we are lucky on Seaforth Street, Summit Street, which is it? I always turn those around.
Seaforth.
You know, and we actually, because we've been there so long, we know most of them, but there would only be about a dozen. And, you know, what we were talking about was having a brochure, knocking on their door and asking them if they have any questions and leaving a brochure with the number of someone they can call if they've got a problem. Right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think it has to be approved at the parish level first. And also, I think the location has to be identified, at least from Mother Teresa's point of view, because the people that will impact depends directly on the location where we establish it. And so it has to be done at the parish level first. If it doesn't fly there, then there's no sense in talking to the residents, is there?
That's right. Yeah. you know.
Yeah, absolutely. So in fact, need, whether it's on the, I'm not going to try to revise this all, but we need the likely or probable location known before talking to the parishioners.
Mhm.
And then as soon as we talk to the parishioners, turn right around to talk to the community, not to allow a time gap for rumors to start spreading.
Okay.
Is that what I'm hearing?
Are your churches still considering locations, or has that been sort of narrowed down, do you think?
Oh, no.
They don't even know anything about it, other than what Len and I, and whether Jim, our parish council chair, did anything with it, we don't know, because I'm not part of the parish council, or I have no knowledge of what happens there. Never hear anything from what happens there, and nothing's been said since you know, at the parish from people talking to me or anything. You know, you think that maybe they might say, because I think people will start to connect it with St. Vincent Paul Society because of what we do. But nobody has said a word to me about it. So I don't know. Len, have you heard back from Jim or anything?
Oh, no, it's too preliminary at this stage. You know, we talked about, like there's a couple of areas that St. Mother Teresa, something like this could be located. We have a park that's at the front end of the church. I don't think that's a very appropriate place, but there's also I call it a cottage, but it's really the caretaker's house. But it's in the process of being demolished. And I think that's probably what the principal place for it to go there. And but that's just discussion between Jim Evans and myself.
But do you know if he's taking it, if he has taken it to parish council all at any point?
It's too preliminary because we just had our meeting with the pastoral council. When was it? Last Tuesday. So it's not far enough in advance to, it's only people like yourself and myself and Jim that really know about this. And Father Pio, of course. Yeah, so that's too preliminary, but it'll move quickly once we decide how to move ahead. That'll be one of the first things we'll have to establish. First of all, is the parish willing to engage in this process? And if they are willing to engage in it, then where's the location? And then from there, I think that we have to consult the people that may in the neighborhood that may be influenced through that particular location. So the sequence of how I see things going. But again, we only have 6 weeks, so we have to proceed with it quite quickly.
That's it. I think for us, it's a little simpler. We only have the space behind the church. So it's really a sort of a default space that we have between the back of the church and Barrington Street. So the location is sort of identified for us. That's really all we have. It's a good one though.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Teresa's, where would you be thinking? Out in front of the?
Well, see, and this is where you'd like to get a little bit of a different view of it. In my case, originally there's a place, we have a garage there, and I thought we could tuck it right by that garage. But alternatively, we might put it between the rectory and the church so that it's not actually bordering on anybody else's property, only our own, right? So anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, and I didn't bring my tape measure, but you know, there's the space between the garage and the rectory might be large enough for 2 shelters, depending on measurement. If we and there's a possibility of us to look at 2, just because we're on a location closer to downtown, where it's more likely to be, as is St. Patrick's, of course, people are more likely to step up and say, I'd be willing to live there because it's transit or even walking brings them toward a lot of services. But I think even back thinking of St. Mother Teresa, if you even knew a couple of potential spots, all like nominee spots, and Jim would need to be involved with that to mention when you talk to the parish, it gives people a clearer idea of what you're talking about. Before you then turn around and talk to the neighbors. So it's not, because it can't be too undefined, because then people are left to speculate, and speculation can tend to go in the worst direction. It's not the best.
That's right.
Yeah.
They'll probably want to have a proposal when it's presented.
Yeah, exactly. Proposed space
Yeah.
leaves you room to change if you find there's a lot of people surging in a different direction, but having a proposal makes it more concrete.
Mhm.
Yes, yeah, I've gave my thoughts to Jim Evans as to where I think it should go, and the only problem is the caretaker's cottage is subject to demolition. I'd say leave it there and place the tiny shelter on the back step of the cottage, and then it's in a nice private place, and it's out of the way of most residents. It's a place
Ideally, that
least
would be the
affected.
best place. Ideally, for us, that would be the best place because it's sheltered between the actual church and the rectory and the garage attached to it on two sides. And then the cottage, as you call it, would be the third. So it would only be the neighbor to the right as you're looking at the cottage. So it would be almost a perfect place for it. But if that's going to be gone, so then it's wide open then.
More space, but wide open.
Yeah.
We'll have all the space that the cottage currently exists, yeah.
Yeah,
But
one of the
anyway,
things-
I think that can be started quite quickly as the biggest decision. Then it has to be announced to the parish. And then you have to start dealing with the information out to the residents that may be affected by the particular shelter. Yeah, that's sort of the way that I see it anyway.
Yeah, one of the little things that we threw around was throwing into the budget, putting up like a little bit of a privacy screen, maybe on a side or two sides of it, so that the neighbors are not actually looking at the tieback. They're looking at this, kind of nice little, things. What's the word I'm looking for, Dan?
Lattice. Well, it has to be weather resistant, whatever you put up there. So you're looking at the winter
Yeah,
months, and
and-
stuff, right? For sure.
Wind resistant. We bought a house once where they had put a fence up that wasn't properly, it kept blowing down in every high wind.
Yeah.
So I went and rebuilt that section anyway, but yeah, even just lattice work, but it would need to be tied down hard enough to withstand the winter winds.
Mhm.
And we've also began talking about has to fit into the snow removal plans as well.
Exactly.
Because we all have snow removal plans that don't include tiny shelters.
That's right. That's a good point.
Mm.
So would you say the
Um,
first item in the timeline then is really to first of all get the approval from the parish
Yeah.
itself to go ahead and engage the parish into the project, and secondly, and at the same time, to determine the location, and then thirdly would be information or meetings with the residents that may be affected by it.
Mhm.
I was just changing the date to talk to the neighbors on the timeline from the 2nd of November to the 1st of November to the Monday. Because that'd be assuming that rumors hopefully don't spread that fast, but if it's addressed at Saturday and Sunday masses, you want to be out to the neighbors by Monday at the latest. I guess eager beavers could even, if something's drafted and okayed, which would have to be done this coming week. I'm giving myself the job of initial drafts of things for circulation, just so it's, to keep things moving. But on the timeline, it would have to be it, in fact.
So you're doing the draft for the communication to the neighbors, are you?
I would give it a try, because I'm just thinking there needs to be repetition. You want consistency.
Right.
If anybody else wants to volunteer, they're more than welcome. But half my
I was going to say,
my paid employment was writing. Go ahead, Rick. Sorry.
I was going to say, I think I have a fairly busy week at work, but certainly send any drafts that you have, like for revision. I can turn those over pretty quick and add comments. And I guess what are we looking at? Sort of a skeleton communication piece, and then it might need to be tailored for each individual church, something like that, I guess is what we're looking at, right? And would that be the same then for the information to the public as well? Like we sort of have some draft speaking points, and then they might need to be tailored a bit for each individual church, I'm thinking, eh?
Yeah, I would
I
think.
think you're right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Since you're captive here, folks,
A donut for your Friday.
I didn't
Oh,
know if for next week's services,
Mhm.
just so that the people in the parish know it's going on, that we've made no real decisions, but you know, that the parish has been approached by both the Archbishop and other groups to house an emergency shelter. And we have point number 2 is St. Ignatius did it last year, so it is workable. And number 3 would be, if you have any questions or comments, please, what?
All day, cold day.
John.
Uh,
Well, this is it. Like, and I guess that's it. We're not going to get any kind of support like that from the Archdiocese, where they would lead on any providing feedback to any resident. This is all going to be parish based, right? We won't get that support, like even because they're in the city. Like if it's a Halifax initiative, they could respond to questions from homeowners as general questions and stuff like that, right? But that's not there, right?
Yeah, I think we should have a common message that we convey during Mass. Like I or Paulette, I don't mind doing it during the 2 liturgies at the St. Mother Teresa to communicate that. That'll be on the first weekend of November, I believe, isn't it? Or is it the end?
And it'll be the 30th, 31st.
Well, that's next weekend.
And 31st.
Yeah,
That's next weekend.
Yeah.
if we had a common draft made up as to the various points and what needs to be expressed, and Father Pio would certainly cooperate with having that
But
set
do we know that's great, but do we know that we have, first of all, now the diocese permission to go ahead with this because of the comment the bishop made to you? And then second, do we have Father Pio's permission? I mean, you can't get up and speak on it until you have those 2 things in place.
Right. But if it's
we can convince Father Pio, that's not gonna be a problem. And I'm gonna find out what the bishop was talking about tomorrow. I'm gonna get in touch with Robert Dahl and find out what that is. And if it's an obstacle that's gonna stop the whole thing for a while, then I'll certainly let each one of you know that. I can send you out an email immediately, but I'll find out first thing tomorrow morning what that's all about.
Okay.
be good to know.
Yeah.
But no, Father Pio would agree with that, and he's the administrator for each of the churches, so.
Mhm. He'll just be saying the same message at all the churches.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. Maybe he want to do it himself. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then I think there's deadlines. If we want to put something in the bulletin, I think for it's Wednesday, is it not, for the bulletin announcements for the following Saturday and Sunday? I think so. The last time I did a bulletin announcement, I think that's what it was. It was a Wednesday cutoff. So just keep that in mind if you have anything for the bulletins.
Well, isn't, so St. Pat's and
Yeah.
Cheryl does both, St.
That's
Pat's
right,
and
yeah.
St. Teresa's, so, yeah.
Yeah, if we did have anything for the bullet, it might be good to reach out to Cheryl to see what her cutoffs are. If we in there,
Yeah.
And listening to this, we can't put very much in the bulletin.
Not really.
Just a heads up, there's going to be something at the masses, I think, to just alert people ahead of time. Doesn't hurt to let them know, because they go out electronically. You never know for sure who's reading it. People can track, but I don't know who reads them when, but they would at least know, those with an interest watching or listening for something at Mass then.
Mhm.
Okay.
So you're talking
And-
about the parish bulletin and not the individual church bulletins. So you just need the one publication. Like the Franciscans, they send the weekly St. Francis and St. Clare bulletin, but I also get a bulletin from St. Mother Teresa. This would just be a joint statement in the parish bulletin, I assume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be.
whether that should come out before the 2-minute blurb at the masses, or whether it should come out the following week.
I just don't really matter. It should go in the same bulletin, I think, eh?
Sure.
Because time is not on our side here if we want to get these things set up in November, right? So
That's very true. Yeah.
okay. So that's a kind of a good overview for the communications products, at least I think, eh? But yeah, share any drafts or anything, Dan, and I'll try to turn them back over as quick as possible, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And people are welcome to ask for big changes as well as small ones, because it's the draft is just, it's a lot easier. You have something in front of you right away. You don't like it as well as whether you do, and to get something we're comfortable with. That would, on this timeline, early on is almost all just communications. Through to that first week of November, and then trying to by the 7th, know who our contact liaison person is for each church. Or alternatively, I didn't stress this at the pastoral council meeting. The alternative that's in the Q&A is a church or parish decides to just contribute financially, or through labor. So that's I'm thinking we have to make that option known as well, both for those who decide they don't have a suitable site, and not to compete for money, but Halifax Mutual Aid got a lot donated their first year, and I think they still will, materials as well as labor, but they look for donations also, of course.
Now, I understand that at St. Patrick's, the decision has been made that there would be shelters. Like we weren't looking at we moved past or hadn't, had considered, but will not be providing a financial contribution, that we were looking at the physical shelter. So I don't know where that, came from, but it seems like that decision has been taken, maybe. So.
That was the feeling around the pastoral council table.
Okay.
I think it's fair to say on Tuesday. Everybody there began thinking and talking about where at their particular church could the shelters go. And we've been talking about that for a year at St. Teresa's. So the talk part has been going on and on. So that's where that feeling would come from, Rick, for sure. It was not whether, but where was the focus.
Okay.
And
So
that being related, the peninsula is the prime spot in general.
Yes, of
compared
course.
to suburban.
There's a need, yeah, absolutely, on the peninsula. Yeah. And certainly close to the downtown. So.
Yeah, and as I realize, even up by St. Mother Teresa, there's a fair need there. People who are living on the street or just barely hanging on, who would want shelter like that.
And it's not so much downtown. I should make up a map. It's where they get the free lunch and the free suppers. That's really, they want something that they can sort of walk or use their bus pass to go to the Round Church or St. Andrew's on Sunday, or the Souls Harbor. And that's why, in a way, it made it easier to work out in St. Ignatius and Bedford, because they only had the one person who wanted to live that far away from all those services, right?
That's right.
Well, I think St. Mother Teresa is certainly, there's lots of bus routes like close to where the church is, like for Robey Street and Novalia Drive, like all around. The bus routes are close, and certainly there's a lot of land between the two properties, that be it the park or the one where the cottage exists. So there's lots of land. It's as long as you get the support in the parish to do it, I think there's a lot to offer there.
Right. I was wondering about sort of the ancillary services, because I know we have porta potty on the list there, and then is that something that will be done at the parish level to, I guess that'll be sort of a contract, I guess, with a company? Is that at the parish level, or will each church be responsible for arranging that sort of service? And maybe even garbage collection. I'm not really sure how that would work, but those sorts of services, are we thinking parish or church level?
I know there's a proposal going to come to the Parish Finance Council that the parish costs be done as a parish expense and not church by church. So that would apply in particular to the porta potty.
Right.
So they have the idea of getting one contract for 4 of them, assuming all 4 churches are going ahead. And that was suggested partly from someone who's trying to pick up the direction from the Archbishop, do things as a parish. So spend the money on this as a parish, not as church by church by church.
Okay.
Garbage and recycling, each church still has its own contract and arrangements, and likely to on the ongoing basis, I'd say. And in the Q&A, they suggest that's something that the contact liaison person does or makes sure it is being done.
Okay.
So that goes back down. And that makes sense. Someone who's going to visiting the site fairly frequently to see what's going on.
Okay. Makes sense. All right. And certainly when it comes time, I was at our potential site this afternoon, and when it comes time for the porta potty, we might need an assessment on whether or not we could do that. It's it's not a really accessible location behind the church there. It's a really narrow passage from the parking lot back. So I know for the service on a porta potty, I don't know if that's a lift that they require or if it's done pumping. I think it's a pumping system that cleans them. So, but we might need an assessment when we get to that point as to whether or not it's feasible to put a porta potty on that site. So that could be a question for us. I'm sure the company will come by and take a look and see if they can service it there or whatnot, or even place it there, but that's going to be a consideration for us.
Mhm.
And they may come and take a look and say, you can't put it right there, but here's a spot.
Yeah, exactly. So
That's back to a local contact person with them.
Yeah.
This includes now. This is the parish-wide information session. On this timetable, I put no later than November 14th. And that was picking up what I thought was in Father Pio's head, that it was for parishioners who had a particular interest. And we may know before then whether that's something that's needed or feasible, or whether things are either canceled or rolling along fast enough that we don't need to necessarily have it. Is my first thought on that, but I don't know what other people are maybe thinking about that.
So you're talking about 4 people from, not from each church, but 4 people, 1 representative from each church.
He was talking about, when he talked about a parish-wide information session, I heard him in my head. I didn't ask him I didn't say, what do you mean by that, Father? I thought he was talking about a general session open to any parishioner with a real interest in getting more information about this, and detailed information.
Okay.
He also, this is thought that the contact person at each site, which is the 4 people, and I guess myself as either in addition or being one of them, whichever works out to St. Teresa's, being kind of a committee, but he was very clear he wanted only one person that he had to talk to or hear from.
Yes.
Which, so far, I give the award being the person who brought it to pastoral council, is to be the contact person going forward, which I don't mind being. If someone much more skilled and eager comes forward, they're happy to have it. But I see his point.
I think you're to be a good representative there, Dan, because you're sort of leading in this discussion, and we can easily get together as a group to discuss things, and you can be the liaison with Father Pio.
Yeah.
I'm
And vice
agreeable.
versa. I think that should work.
Yeah.
And it was Patricia Donald who made the point that half of the battle here is good communication, both amongst ourselves and with everybody else who has an interest. So yes, I'll try to keep that up and not have days when I say, oh my God, not another day of communication on this. And then the question would be when's the next we'll know, I guess, when the next time is required to give an update in the bulletins. Because I would see for the, not to try to monopolize speaking from the pulpit every Sunday, but to use the bulletin for updates, as well as trying to provide weekly updates to the Father Pio and the Pastoral Council, and look for the right time. It would seem from the Q&A, the right time to involve the diocesan team was once we are pretty clear where we want to put the shelters.
Yes, and I think the last thing is when can the city come and install the particular units? That's sort of the last part of the timeline. So we have to do everything else before that.
Well, is it the city?
Yeah.
The city that puts them in?
Yes,
Oh, I thought it was that group that, what's the name of it?
Halifax Mutual Aid.
Yeah,
Sorry, what was that, John?
It's the city's navigation program that identifies the occupant.
oh, that, yeah, but it's not they that puts the structure in place. It's the
It's
mutual aid
puts the
group.
structure.
Yeah, yeah.
They have a website. They have a website, Rick, Halifax Mutual Aid, and they're very, action-oriented young people that just want to do something. And sometimes some of these niceties about getting permission to go ahead and communicating, that's, as far as they're concerned, the poor have a problem, let's fix it, right? So,
Yeah.
So they'll
Do
be,
the red tape.
so Halifax Mutual Aid will be responsible for putting the shelters in.
yeah,
Yeah.
mutual aid.
Okay, I'll have a look at their site. Thanks, John.
And Taylor Doucette from St. Patrick's has been volunteered to help them somewhat, I know.
Okay.
so Halifax Mutual Aid are a group of young people that are associated with the Halifax.
With the structures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I understand they have the structures all built. It's just a matter of coming and assembling them, eh?
We understood they had 15 of them, didn't they? Presently built, but didn't we hear that at the meeting? 15 structures built and waiting to be placed. And now whether they have already someplace, I don't know. They're not waiting for the churches, but I thought that's what they said at a particular council meeting.
So when's the date that they would have to be in place? Or is there a date? Like, we're going from December until May. So probably the end of November? Would that be?
Seem fair, yeah. It'll be cold and dark then.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
So the deadline for installation would be, say, the end of November. So we have to do everything before that.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I don't think it takes very long. I mean, they're already built, so then they're not that big of a thing to put in place, and it just, and then the porta potty, I don't think it would take that long if everything was.
Right.
Well, do we need any kind of I mean, I know it's church property, but do you need such a thing as permits of any kind for these things?
That might be the glitch.
No,
Yeah.
this is, and I could be corrected, I don't mind being corrected. But yes, you do need permits, as you know, even try to put a shed in your backyard, Paulette, and it has to be and meet things. And what the real issue is, and I'm not sure the diocese gets it, is because the diocese has said, and they told St. Ignatius, don't worry about it, we will take care of the insurance. But the issue that's a problem for the city is people living in something that doesn't meet building code.
Right.
Mm.
Right.
So,
It's a temporary structure, not a permanent one, and that's which is another puts it in a gray area potentially, because it's not a permanent structure to which much of the zoning applies and discusses. It's not quite backing an RV up for your cousins to stay all summer, but.
But yeah, okay. Well, we'll see what happens there anyways, for sure. Okay. But one thing about the installation, while it is the end of November, I guess at some point we'll have to reach out to that Halifax Mutual Aid just to see if we need to book time with them. If they're building shelters and installing them here and there, you know, they may need a little bit of lead time to meet our needs. So that might be something like once we've nailed down our sites, and I suppose there's even a conversation as to how many shelters will go on each site. So then I guess reaching out to them to, you know, sort of book the time to come and do it or whatever. They might need some lead, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely, because on the one hand, we may have spaces we offer that are not taken up. On the other hand, they may approach one or more of the churches and say, could you take one or two more? Because we have occupants identified by the street navigators who are ideal for this, but we don't have any place to put a shelter up.
The risk there is that
No.
the risk for me there is that we're creating communities behind our church.
Yes.
Right. So
Yeah.
how many porta potties do you need? You know, what sort of dynamics will that community take on over the course of the winter and whatnot? Like that's, you know, anyways, we'll see where all of that goes. But then it's not just having a shelter, you're having a community, right? So there's all kinds of community things that emerge. So we'll see.
Yeah, that has its own difficulties for sure. I heard that St. Michael's are looking at 5.
Oh,
Well,
I heard that in the weekend.
yeah, well,
Whether-
see, you don't know if this communication thing, you don't know if we're sort of contaminating our own stuff out. Jacob and Ray out at St. Ignatius, who made the pitch to John Stevens, and Jacob particularly, he's in the Halifax Mutual Aid Society, and he speaks, he knows the street navigator really well. So as far as they're concerned, they've got 100, maybe 200 people that are living without a house.
Yeah.
So the number they threw at the Archbishop was maybe each could take 5, you know? And
Oh.
I guess, so then you don't know, well, you know, did that then become the new standard?
That's right.
My own, you know, and maybe I'm moving too slow, but I was proposing largely because again, on this site sort of issue, that we might try 2 and see how that works, right?
yeah, that would be my inclination, 1 or 2 to see how it works, and then, you know.
Because there's no question, there's a great community. Dan and I have been to Mar Park a few times,
Mhm.
and it's a great community, but it's also generating way more negative publicity
Mhm. Yeah.
because there's now 16 tents there. Right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, if we take it, you know, take it at a reasonable pace, you know, people will get acclimatized to it, and then it wouldn't be so much just woof coming in all at once to, you know.
It could get beyond the capacity of the individual church and or the
Yeah.
contact liaison to manage it. Like,
That's right.
no, again, a community will emerge there. What type of community and what kind of, you know, issue or, you know, that's the thing. Anyways.
Yeah.
And
You
they,
know what? I don't think we should bite off more than we can chew, sort of thing, you know.
Absolutely, yeah.
You can always add on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Agree with you
and
wholeheartedly.
that's true. Even halfway through the winter, potentially, if the need is there, another shelter could be added. They don't all have to go up, and won't all go up, I don't think, around the 1st of November. But that was the target time, was to be ready by November.
Mhm.
When I did this draft timetable, I was thinking to try to let the navigator and mutual aid know by around the 17th of November what is possible, which then gives time for them to assess who might an occupant be. They have to find someone who the navigator says is independent enough to be able to take on this responsibility without a lot of additional support, without a support worker necessarily. And mutual aid has to confirm they're able to get a shelter in place. So they not us, have to put that together. And it was stressed at the meeting some of us were at, that the navigators, I think they have a clear understanding of the personalities they're dealing with, and who can successfully go into a shelter and for whom it would be not a success at all.
Did they have anything in place in terms of if a rare person gets in and there are problems? what the role is? What happens? Do they immediately move them out, or what happens?
They say to call the navigator in right away is what I was reading in the Q&A. To turn
Yeah.
it back over to the navigation system. And behind them, they are connected to all the various street services, and behind that, the social services that provide the street services.
Okay.
And they have a lot of experience with people who have to be moved around
Okay.
for one reason or another.
And those navigators, are they HRM staff? They are, okay.
Or are they?
Yeah.
Originally it was a joint sort of program funded by HRM and the Spring Garden Road merchants.
Oh, okay.
And the two business commissions contribute to it, but was presented to us as an HRM program set up with the two business commissions providing support. Lately, it comes across to me discussed almost entirely as an HRM program. That's right, I said they were staff. Whether they're on contract or on staff, I don't know. But they seem to be there on behalf of HRM.
And they're not really available to help support us in the planning part here, right? Because I mean, they might be good with communications around some of this stuff as well, but we don't have anyone identified who might be able to help us with this, right?
No, we don't. They're stressed out and overloaded with the number of people for whom they're trying to find a place to live.
Yeah.
So they're literally, I guess as the term suggests, they're street navigators. They're not policy folks and stuff. I got you. Okay.
The HRM has some policy people now working on it, but Paul Vandal and Ray Burke, as Vincentians, know the street navigator very well, right? They've had meetings with them and this sort of thing.
Well, is there only one street navigator? Or several?
The material spoke about two, but I only hear about Eric as the one who's on the front lines, at least. We hear about him.
It might be it might be a good idea to get a sense to give the parishioners and the general community about the role of these street navigators. Like, is that some sort of a program where they'll be dropping into these sites on a weekly basis or a couple of times a week to monitor things? That sort of, if we knew a little bit about that program, it might help with our communications, right? To know that, there's this HRM group.
Yep.
That's very true.
They won't drop into the contact liaison person is supposed to monitor, but it has the navigator as a backup.
Oh, okay.
That's how it's explained.
Okay. So on an as-needed basis, I guess, if you need a street navigator to come by and say, I got you. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I guess what
I
we
know.
talked,
Sorry.
yeah, I was just saying, what we talked about corresponds pretty much with your timeline of events there, does it?
I think it does. Waiting for the glitch hangs over our heads.
Yeah.
But
I'll find out what the glitch is tomorrow, and I'll send out an email communication to each one of you to explain what that is.
That's good.
excellent. And some of us will have a chance tomorrow night to talk about it at Halifax Particular Council of St. Vincent de Paul.
Your meeting's tomorrow night, is
Talk
it?
again Wednesday night.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I think that that's as far as we can go tonight.
So,
Because
well, at this point, I mean, after the particular council meeting tomorrow night, we get a little bit more information there, but do you feel it's anything should be said to our conferences yet, or just wait until we start this other process then?
personally, I would say update the conference for sure. It's a legitimate matter of interest, and kind of in the same context of reporting back from particular council.
Yeah.
I think in our conference, I think there's a fair amount of awareness because the church is small enough anyway. So I know Rick's in the conference, and Colleen Doucette is in the St. Vincent conference, and she's supporting it. So there's a fair amount of awareness. So
Okay.
but I still have those same reservations about our involvement. I think that I've heard here tonight. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, and we'll have to
I know,
see
does it-
what's happening at the parish level. And
That's right, right.
Yeah, maybe Lynn, you will hear more in that regard than I will, because I don't, there's no communication between me and the parish at all. Very rarely. The only time, I mean, I usually speak twice a year at the masses, but other than that, other than people coming up and talking to us about the work of St. Vincent de Paul, there's nothing from the the parish level that comes to me. So
Yeah,
you'll
well, I'm
probably hear
I'm
more.
in communication with Father Pio and Father Nathaniel.
Yeah,
I know they're both very interested in this particular project, and now the priests are all on retreat from Monday to Friday, so they
Right.
won't be able to communicate with them at all during that period of time. That's a bit of an obstacle, but whether we'll be ready to run on the weekend with some mass announcements.
Mm.
But if we had a sort of a template of what to say during that, Dan, I think you're going to draft something there so that it's a common message that's being conveyed in each of the churches.
Absolutely. A common message, common framework at least, and then to the degree there's items that are particular with each church, then to be filled in by the people from that church.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah, we can do that. That would be quite an achievement in itself. If we get that rolling by next week, and that's the initial contact. And then it's just a matter of seeing what kind of reaction, getting as much of the support from the parish as we can. Some people may come forth and express a real interest and may want to be engaged in it, which would be good. And others will have questions for sure, but it gets the ball rolling once it's known at the church level that we're looking at taking on this particular initiative.
Mm.
Exactly.
That's certainly the next step. Okay, so I'll find out from Robert Doyle tomorrow what that is, and I'll send that out to you, and we'll see how that influences it.
Yeah.
They didn't elaborate as to what this particular problem was, but it certainly was quite visible that it was a problem, and they're going to have to start dealing with it right away.
Mm.
But I can't imagine what it is. But he said it had to do with the Halifax municipality level.
Zoning.
Okay.
Yeah, could be have to do with building. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Anything else? Thank you all very much for the time and good ideas and good discussion. And you'll the emails flowing from me, drafts, unless the veto comes down tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully
Okay,
that
very
will
good.
happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Thanks again.
Okay.
Good night.
Thanks, John.
Good to meet you all.
Dan.
Yes.
I'll be in touch with you.
Okay.
Great.
Thanks, Glenn.
Bye-bye.
Bye
Bye.
now.
Bye.